Christianity is an abomination to the Most High. Matthew 24th chapter, 5th verse. For many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and shall deceive many. This white fake impostor of Christ, Yahushua, is an abomination to the Most High. The Bible has several descriptions, and the one that stands out, the feature, is his hair on his head like pure wool. And that's in accordance with Daniel chapter 7, verse 9. Now, this white Jesus idol has deceived the world. And for those who say it does not matter, it doesn't make a difference, is foolish. Now tell me that these Roman horns 1,000 years ago taught their children the truth that their Savior was a black man. Tell me the United States 500 years ago, if they would have taught their children that a black man came on this earth and he is Christ the Savior, oh, that would have made a huge difference in the world that we live in today, because the world we live in today is all about color, and black is on the bottom. But Christ was a black man, and he's on top. Now, let me ask you this. How could they have enslaved and mistreated Africans and Israelites? How could they have enslaved and mistreated Israelites, Israel, if they knew Jesus was a black man sent by the Most High? Now, Christian, the word Christian is mentioned 3 times in the New Testament and 0 times in the Old. Christ never called his disciples or his followers Christians. And in accordance with the Bible scriptures, Gentiles call the disciples who were Israelites Christians. Gentiles named them Christians. The Most High called his chosen people Israelites. Welcome to the Black Bibleist channel. Thank you for tuning in. You know, this is our 3rd video. We're a brand new channel. And this is the 3rd part of Western European domination will end. And so I'm going to ask you to check out video 1 and 2 because it'll give you a real good foundation for all the videos that we post. Now, also, you know, this channel is unique by expanding knowledge, awareness, and preparedness to Israelites. I'm going to ask you for your help to share this information because it is vital. We must be aware so that we can prepare ourselves spiritually mentally, and physically. So share this information, like, subscribe, and comment, because I will answer as many and all if I have the ability to respond to all of your comments. So in the descriptions, I want you to click on how you should prepare yourself and your loved ones in these last days. All praises to the Most High. I'm going to break down Daniel concise, complete, and accurate. Now, Daniel saw these 10 horns, which is 10 kings, rise out of the fourth beast. And the fourth beast is the Roman Empire. And if you want to verify that, it is in European history books. Babylon was first, it was conquered by the Persian Empire. The Persian Empire was conquered by Greece. Greece was conquered by the Roman Empire. And these 10 kings that rose up conquered the Western Roman Empire. 10 kings rose, another rose, which is the Roman Catholic Church. And the Roman Catholic Church plucked 3 of the horns, which left 7 kingdoms. And these 7 Western European kingdoms is what it is called today Western civilization. And they are England, France, Spain, Portugal, Germany, Italy, Belgium, and the Netherlands are the same people. It's just like North and South Korea. They're the same people. The Belgium and the Netherlands split their country up. They are the same people. And along with America, Babylon, the mother of harlots and abomination, it is called Western European domination. And so, with these 7 horns, along with United States of America, they are responsible for enslaving, killing hundreds and hundreds of millions of indigenous people all around the world. And right now, these 7 heads, along with America, have the world upside down and on the brink of destruction. Now let's look at the beast. Up top is Christianity, because again, the little horn rose. The Roman Catholic Church is the mother of European Christianity. And so, who is the beast? It is Satan. Satan is the Godfather. I want to touch on an important and sensitive topic involving Christianity, religion, and race. The slave Bible. Have anyone heard of the slave Bible? Well, the slave Bible is the topic of discussion. The slave Bible refers to an edited version of the Christian Bible used during the 19th century to teach Christianity to enslaved Africans in the British West Indies during the early 19th century. The intention behind distributing the slave Bible was to promote a version of Christianity that emphasized submission and obedience to enslavement while omitting now discussions of freedom and liberation. So here are some of the key points about the slave Bible. They had alterations. They alterated the Bible. Omissions, yes. Large portions of the Old and New Testaments were omitted. For instance, Exodus, which tells the story of the Israelites' emancipation from slavery, was heavily redacted. But now it included passages that instructed slaves to obey their masters were often retained. For example, Ephesians 6:5. And let's bring this to some historical context. The purpose, the intention was to instill a version of Christianity that would make enslaved people more compliant and less likely to rebel. Creation. Now, this slave Bible was published in 1807, and it removed about 90% of the Old Testament and about 50% of the New Testament. Now, what was the impact? I'll tell you the impact. It was used by these 7 horns on Babylon. It was used by their missionaries and their clergy to control and condition the enslaved population. Now, right now, the museum in Washington, D.C., it has exhibitions about the slave Bible. How did it impact? How did this Christianity really impact the Israelites, Africans, and indigenous populations all around the world? Throughout history, though, Christianity has been used as a tool of oppression in the context of colonization and slavery. Christianity was often used to justify and perpetuate systems of exploitation and control. So missionaries and colonizers, enslavers, these 7 heads, England, France, Spain, Portugal, Germany, Italy, Belgium, Netherlands, and Babylon, the United States, imposed their interpretation of Christianity on the Israelites, African, and indigenous people, erasing and denigrating existing beliefs and cultural practices. This led to the suppression of Israelites' identities and traditions. For Israelites and Africans, Christianity's role in the transatlantic slave trade and subsequent enslavement of African populations resulted in a distorted version of the religion being used to justify the subjugation and the dehumanization of individuals. And that's dehumanization, dehumanizing. Many argue that God had ordained slavery, perpetuating deception and lies to destroy the Israelites spiritually. Certainly, there is evidence of the manipulation of the Bible in the American South. To justify and maintain slavery is a significant part of U.S. Babylon history. Enslavers and pro-slavery advocates selected specific biblical passages to promote obedience and servitude among African Americans. Here's a deeper look into how the Bible was manipulated in some of the Pacific scriptures that were used. Manipulation of the Bible in southern United States. And what was the purpose? Well, justification of slavery. The pro-slavery narrative relied on interpretations of biblical texts to argue that slavery was divinely sanctioned and morally acceptable. Control and subjugation. Specific passages were emphasized to encourage enslaved people to accept their condition and obey their enslavers. And what was the methods? Selective reading. Only certain passages were read and interpreted during religious gatherings. Religious instruction. Enslaved people were often only allowed to attend church led by white preachers who promoted pro-slavery ideologies. And the key scriptures used, here are some of the biblical scriptures that were frequently cited to enforce obedience among enslaved African Americans. Number 1, Ephesians 6:5. Slaves, obey your earthly masters with respect and fear, with sincerity of heart, just as you would obey Christ. Now, this verse was used to instill a sense of religious duty towards obedience, equating it with serving God. Man, isn't that's psychological warfare right there? Very deceptive. Number 2, though, Colossians chapter 3, 22 through 24. Slaves, obey your earthly masters in everything, and do it not only when their eye is on you and carry to their favor, but with sincerity of heart and reverence for the Lord. Whatever you do, work at it with all your heart as working for the Lord, not for human masters, since you know that you will receive an inheritance from the Lord as a reward. It's the Lord Christ you are serving. So serving your master is serving Christ, they said. Scripture was used to suggest that serving their enslavers devotedly was akin to serving Christ. Number 3, 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 18. Slaves, in your reverent fear of God, submit yourselves to your masters, not only to those who are good and considerate, but also to those who are harsh. This verse further reinforced the idea that slaves should accept their lots, even under harsh masters, as part of divine will. Number 4, Titus chapter 2, verse 9 and 10. teach slaves to be subject to their masters in everything, to try to please them, not talk back to them, and not to steal from them, but to show that they can be fully trusted, so that in every way they will make the teaching about God our Savior attractive. Now, this was used to encourage enslaved people to conform to the conditions of slavery without resistance. What is the historical context and resistance? Because it is important to note that despite these manipulations, many enslaved African Americans found ways to interpret the Bible in ways that supported their resistance and desire for freedom. Stories of liberation, such as Moses leading the Israelites out of Egypt, were particularly resonant and used to inspire hope and a sense of divine justice. Conclusion: the use of the Bible to justify and perpetrate slavery in the American South is a stark example of how religious texts can be manipulated to uphold white supremacy systems of oppression. Constantine hijacked Christianity in 313 AD. The change of the weekly day of rest and worship from Saturday to Sunday in Christianity involves several historical and theological developments. Bible origin. In the Bible, specifically in the book of Genesis, the concept of Sabbath rest is introduced. God rests on the seventh day after work of creation, making the Sabbath Saturday a holy day of rest and worship in Israelite tradition. Now, the original early Christians, were all Israelites. Initially, observed the Sabbath in Israelite tradition. However, they also met on the first day of the week. Sunday commemorates the resurrection of Christ, which in the New Testament records as having occurred on the first day of the week. And I sort of have a problem with that. If you die on Friday and rose on the third day, it will be Monday. But that's another video. But the Roman influence, the transition from Saturday to Sunday as the primary day of worship, was gradual and influenced by several factors. One key factor was the desire to differentiate Christian practices from Jewish traditions, partly as a response to Israelite and the Christian relations back then, due to the destruction of the temple in Jerusalem in 70 AD. Now, Constantine's rose up. The Roman Emperor Constantine, who converted to Christianity, played a significant role in formalizing Sunday as a day of Christian worship. In 321 AD, he issued an edict of Constantine, which declared Sunday as a day of rest in the Roman Empire. This edict requires citizens to rest on the day of the sun, aligning with his pagan religion. So moving it to Sunday was really to support the sun worship. Councils and canon. Subsequent churches council decrees solidified the observance of Sunday as a primary day of worship in Christianity. The Council of Laodicea around 364 AD explicitly discouraged the observance of Israelite Sabbath and encouraged Christians to work on that day and rest on Sunday. So there were theological justifications for this. So theologically, Sunday came to be seen as the Lord's Day, focusing on Jesus' resurrection and the new creation rather than Christ that came and stated that he did not change any. He did not come to change any of the laws for the prophets, but he came to fulfill it. So he did not focus on resurrection. He focused on Sabbath, and that's what he said to keep holy. So Christianity's slave Bible distorted the words of the Most High, and the slave Bible misled Israelites, Africans, and indigenous peoples. It's blasphemy against the Most High. And not only that, Christianity changed so many of the laws and commandments. Deception, lies, blasphemy, abomination. Here are some of the biblical scriptures that prohibits this. Ye shall not add into the word which I command you, neither shall you diminish aught from it, that ye may keep the commandments of the Lord your God, which I command you. That was Deuteronomy, 4th chapter, 2nd verse. Deuteronomy 12 and 32 verse. What thing soever I command you, observe to do it. Thou shalt not add thereto, nor diminish from it. Number 3, Proverbs 30, 5th to 6th verse. Every word of the Most High is pure. He is a surety to them that put their trust in him. Add not unto his words, lest he reprove thee, and thou be found a liar. Christianity. Number 4, Revelations 22, 18 verse and 19 verse. For I testify unto every man that heareth the word of the prophecy of this book. If any man shall add unto these things, God shall add unto him the plagues that are written in this book. And if any man or institution like Christianity shall take away from the words of the book of this prophecy, God shall take away his part of this book of the holy city and from the things which are written in this book. Thus he said, the fourth beast shall be the fourth kingdom upon earth, which shall be diverse from all the kingdoms and shall devour the whole earth. Shall devour the whole earth. Shall tread it down and break it in pieces. Now, look at the African map. And this was during the 1884 Berlin Conference. Now, my part 4, I'm going to go deep dive into the conference. But right now, I'm going to do an overview. So, Daniel 7, and that was chapter 20. Chapter 7, verse 23. Daniel said that these 7 horns was going to devour the whole earth and shall tread it down and break it into pieces. Now, when you look at Africa, you see those 7 horns, the same 7 horns that conquered the Western Roman Empire, built those kingdoms, and now you see these horns break it in pieces. They break the whole world in pieces. And on the left-hand side, you see the same horns. Now, I use this map for a purpose because you see Russia head of Alaska, but Russia is not Germanic, and Russia didn't take any slaves out of Africa. They was not one of the Germanic tribes or one of the nations that devoured Africa. So, yes, you see they had Alaska, and later on you would know, if you know your history, they sold Alaska to America. But you see the same characters. You see the British, you see the Dutch, you see the French, you see the Portuguese, you see the Spanish. Now you also see England, which is the British, and their 13 colonies. And with their 13 colonies, the United States rose out of England. And you will see United States swallow up all of British part, France's part of Spain, and the French. And of course, they committed a lot of crimes against humanity to conquer and control all of this land. The same thing in Africa. So you see, these horns are Daniel's living prophecy. Now I'm going to wrap this up. In the 1500s, the Roman Catholic Church ruled Western Europe, aka the Holy Roman Empire. The Roman horns, France, Spain, England, and Portugal, and the little horn, the mother of European Christianity, moved in North and South America, enslaving and committing genocide on hundreds of millions of Native Americans. These barbarians' horns continued in beast mode as Satan's disciples, invading, enslaving, pillaging, raping, stealing, spreading diseases, and Roman Catholic Christianity. The horns devastated and wiped out the native populations so severely to the extent of genocide on many of the native tribes. This is what really started and initiated the need for the transatlantic slave trade to make up the loss of indigenous slave labor. The transatlantic slave trade and the role of Christianity was labor. And so they had to make up the loss of the indigenous people, and they started this transatlantic slave. Now, the role of Christianity and the papacy and colonialism and slavery. There's been a bunch of edicts, but a Spanish bishop named Bartolome de la Casa, he was born in 1484 and lived in 1566. This pope, this bishop, Spanish bishop, he opposed the horrific abuse of Native Americans. He saw what the Spanish was doing to them. But he said, instead of treating them like that, go and import enslave Africans instead of the Native Americans. The justification and legitimization of Christianity was utilized by Christian powers as a cornerstone for justifying the colonization and of the Americas and Africa. Both declarations, such as Papal Bull Inter Capitera in 1491, effectively granted Spain and Portugal the right to conquer new lands in the Americas, provided they spread Christianity among the indigenous people. This divine sanction offered a moral and spiritual rationale for conquest and subjugation of all non-Christian people. Now, what was the economic benefits? Well, they got filthy rich. The Christian church, including the papacy, benefited materially from the colonial enterprises through the system of tithes, donation, and acquisition of land in the newly colonized territories. The church amassed wealth and resources. The spread of Christianity also meant the spread of its institution, which required economic support that further tied the church to the colonial economic system. Cultural and spiritual impact of indigenous people and Africans, the forced conversion and evangelization, evangelization efforts to lead a profound cultural and spiritual upheaval among indigenous people in the Americas and enslaved Africans, including Israelites. This often involved the suppression of native religions, languages, and cultural practices. The portrayal of religious figures, such as, the white Jesus with European features, and the association of Christianity with European political and military power had lasting impacts on perceptions of race and divinity. Now, how did Christianity benefit? Christianity benefited They expanded their influence. The colonization of the Americas and the transatlantic slave trade facilitated the spread of Christianity far beyond Europe, significantly expanding the church's spiritual temporal influence. Wealth accumulation. The church directly benefited from the colonial expansion through the acquisition of land, the imposition of tithes and donations from wealthy colonizers, enhancing its economic power. The contradictory nature of Christianity's role was psychological warfare. Notably, the relationships between Christianity and colonialism, slavery is rife with contradictions. On one hand, Christian doctrine was used to justify oppression, and on the other, the lies about Christianity is out, and now it is a sort of resistance among Israelites, enslaved Africans, and colonized people. The imposition of Christianity alongside the dominant portrayals of religious figures with white European characteristics played a significant role in the cultural and spiritual lives of colonized and enslaved peoples. It contributed to long-lasting impacts of colonization and slavery, including issues of identity, race, and resistance. In essence, the Roman horns and Christianity's involvement in the Columbus era through colonialism and transatlantic slave trade was prophesied by Daniel the prophet. Revelations 13:1. And I stood upon the sand of the sea and saw a beast rise out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns. And upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy. Now, Revelation is very important. In Daniel 7:25 matches. Daniel and the Revelator saw the same beast. Revelation, and it was given to him to make war with the saints and to overcome them. And power was given him over all kindreds and tongues and nations. And Daniel said, and he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and think to change times and laws. And they should be given into his hand, until a time and times and dividing of time. So the Revelator, he says that all kindreds, and guess what? These 7 horns, they had power over all kindreds, tongues, and nations. Because right now, West European domination, along with them 7 horns in the United States, control the world. But they are losing their grip. And one point that I want to make real fast and brief. If you've been looking and you understand what's going on in the Sahel region of Africa, in Nigeria, Nigeria has asked France to leave. Now they just asked the United States to leave. Now France didn't want to leave. France was a colonial power, and the French are the worst of these horns. They have no shame because they know they are desperate and they are losing control over their colonies. But Nigeria have asked them to leave and they have kicked them out. Now they have asked the United States to leave. But guess what? Germany and Italy also have a base in Nigeria. Now, does this is all of this together? They call themselves NATO, their military alliance. But you know who runs NATO? Babylon. The United States runs NATO. But this is what Nigeria did. Nigeria strategically countered their resistance of leaving, and they invited the Russians to come in. And that $100 million installation that the United States built, the Russians is occupying it and they are sharing that base. Now all of a sudden the United States wants to leave. But they are on the pretext of fighting the jihadists, the insurgency. But things never got better in accordance to Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso. So they said, hey, we don't want the West help anymore. We don't want these dramatic tribes helping us because we don't believe that they're really helping. They're really hurting us. And so I do want to bring that to your attention. And I'm going to close. I want you to hit that subscribe button right now so that you can get this vital information on my next video. You will be notified, and this will help the channel grow. Share this vital information and comments. I thank you very much. All praises to the Most High, and peace out, Israelites.